This is Culture, Communication, and Brand Moments with Shelby Joe Long, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Culture, Communication, and Brand Moments is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Shelby Joe Long.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Shelby Joe Long. I am here on the Genius Entrepreneur podcast today to introduce you to business owners that have created businesses out of their genius. Geniuses that use their expertise to make a bigger impact in the world and to create a change and a transformation in more people. And today I have the opportunity to speak with someone that I know on a few different levels. And we've just more recently engaged in the business, and I got to know more about her business, Moms Without Capes. And Onnie Michalsky is here today to tell us all about her background and her business. So Onnie, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here, Shelby.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We, just as a side note, we know each other through our children, and it's kind of a fun story that our kids are connected in an after-school program, and
yes.
It's just kind of fun that we have that connection, but then it blossoms into something else, and we also have similar business interests and similar passions, and it's just really fun to be able to make those connections. It's just the power of networking. So Onnie, but why don't you tell us a little bit, give us your background, give us your story before we dig into your business and how you created a business out of your genius.
Sure. So I am, my most important role is that of mom. So I've got 6 kids, and actually you kind of alluded to that. Our oldest daughter works at the after school program. So I don't even know. I can't even think of the first time that I was like saying to Ariella, I was like, guess who I heard of? I don't even know. I like, now that I think about it, I'm like, I don't even know. Maybe through a different networking group or something. And she was like, oh yeah, I know her kids. And like, she had known you just from coming in and out and stuff. And then after that, I think I got on her nerves because I was constantly like, guess who I'm seeing? Guess who? It became like this connection. So that's my most important role, is that of mom. And then I also, by trade or by education, I am also a licensed therapist here in Montana, and moved to Billings 2020, but we moved to Montana in 2009. And I was a stay-at-home mom for 14 years. We were homeschooling. I'm originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, or the suburbs of, and ended up coming to Montana in 2009. We bought a hotel out in a smaller town about 100 miles away, moved there, and had lived there. And that was where I got my license. I had already had my master's in therapy or in counseling, family counseling, and decided to go back and get my license. Meanwhile, while I was a stay-at-home mom, I had done a lot of things. I was very involved in our community. And one of the things that I had done was I also became a Zumba instructor. So as part of that, I got certified as a health coach, as a group fitness instructor, and then as a health coach. And that led me to the world of coaching. And so by the time 2019 rolled around, we have to get like 2,300 hours, or actually 3,000 hours of supervised, supervision to get our license, like our therapy license. So I had done all that. And in 2019, I had gotten licensed and I got certified as a coach. And I was like, all right, I'm ready to start my own business. It's kind of how I always do things. Like even the move across, like it was just like, okay, it's a leap of faith. And I decided, but then at that point I was like, I don't even know how to even start. And so I hired a business coach, and through the last 3 years, I guess it's a little bit more than 3 years, right? 2021, 22, right? We're 23 now. We're 23 now. I have, of course, my business evolved quite a bit. I actually own two businesses now because I needed to split my counseling from my coaching, and decided to serve moms. So that's another piece. And we'll get more into that, like how I decided to, how I tapped into my own experience and education to be able to create a business that I felt confident. I felt like I have something to offer, and all of that good stuff. So
All of
yeah,
that
that's
good
kind of
stuff.
how I got to be where I am right now.
Yeah, I love it's funny because there's as an entrepreneur, there's maybe not a moment, but it's just kind of like, all right, I guess this is what I'm doing next. It's just what to do. And you don't, it's like a decision that you make, but you make that decision, but then there's a whole transition to that, and like, I'm going to start a business that's going to be easy, but then you're like, oh, it's not as easy as it seems.
No.
So seeking out mentors and seeking out all those and the networking in the business community is so important too. The other thing I wanted to ask about too before you get into your business, so you're a trained therapist, and then you're also in the coaching, very human-centered, transformation-centered disciplines, areas, but they do it in very different ways. So therapy seems more reflective, where coaching seems more progressive and moving forward. Do you see that difference in those two?
Yes. I was just having the same conversation this morning about the differences between counseling and coaching, and how I lean back and forth. I really enjoy both. They both have different aspects of it, but counseling is more of like that healing process where you're kind of working towards like a baseline of being able to function. A lot of symptom reduction takes place, processing of past trauma, all of those things that need to be kind of worked on, or like in order to get to your normal self, or like your baseline. And then coaching, like you said, I like that word progressive, because it's really moving towards a goal or towards your highest potential. And I feel that once you get to your baseline, it's only when you're at your baseline, like that, you're able to have that forward thinking where you're like, okay, now what? How do I maximize my potential? And that's where the coaching is. So it's a lot of on like goal setting and creating that life that you really want to be living.
Right. Gosh, and the other thing that I think is so that connection there, I mean, that you need to kind of work as a CEO and transitioning into a CEO role from a stay-at-home mom or working in a business, and then you say, well, I'm going to go to be a CEO. There's a lot of things you have to work through before you like step into that leadership role in a holistic type of way. I just think those two are very synergistic, and that even though they are different approaches, they feed one another. And I think that's probably and you could probably speak to this too, very important as you talk to and empower women and men, because you do both, but to kind of move to the next level. So,
yeah. And I felt like I had, when I started diving into like the leadership space, I started reflecting on like, this isn't new for me. Like I was a Girl Scout leader for a long time. I was like on the board of a mom's club. I was the president of the Friends of the Pool. I had owned, we owned the hotel, different businesses. I started a business when we actually first got married as a career coach. And I didn't even know, because coaching wasn't really a thing.
No.
And so
and the pandemic happened and everybody turned into a coach.
Yes, basically, yes. And so when I think back on like through my life, like there were lots of leadership roles that I was in that I was able to tap into when it came to like, okay, now I want to create like a business. I want to contribute, and I want to serve, and I want to make something that's going to work for me and my family. And I was able to draw from a lot of my past experiences, things like I knew these things that I didn't know that I knew. Like I wasn't aware of them, that they were going to be something that helped me in the future, as is life, right? Like there's all kinds of things that we go through that we don't know how it's going to help us.
I just, I just recently published a book and
Mhm.
and I write about that too. That's your genius, right? That's your
Yes.
intuition. It's the things that you know how to do that's like internal to yourself. And then you know how to do it. It's second nature to you, but that is not second nature to everybody.
And
And
it's finding that
yeah,
out. It's finding that out.
just
Well,
yeah.
yeah, that's easy. And I still, and I feel like I always it'll always happen where I find that I get surprised where I'm like, not everybody knows this, right? Like, do you
Right.
know what I mean? Like, because it's so second nature and it's things that, and like my husband will be like, no, like I've never even heard of that before. And I'm
Right.
like, I feel like it's just common knowledge and it's those kinds of things, but it takes getting out there and taking action to realize that this is your zone of genius. This is the areas that not everybody knows.
Mm-mm. And then you interpret things in your own way and you connect with audiences in your own way. And you are able to offer that transformative journey to people from your genius. Oh, we could talk about this all day, but I don't want to talk about talk about that. I do want to talk about how that kind of moment, that light bulb moment that you decided to transition that and really make that transformation journey. But why don't you tell us a little bit about your Moms Without Capes business? Tell us
Okay.
about that.
So Moms Without Capes is the area where I help moms who are attempting to be super moms, right? Moms that are struggling under all of the weight of thinking they have to be doing all of the things and helping them recognize the expectations that they're holding on themselves, such as maybe they struggle with perfectionism or some people pleasing, or they may need to redefine their definition of a good mom, learning to escape the compare game, right? Like all of these things that are keeping them trapped, feeling that are reinforcing their belief of inadequacy. And I help them recognize their own worth. And so I do that through a variety of like courses. I've got a Facebook group. I've got different ways that I help them transform that belief and then create space for themselves in their day. Like help them recognize like that they're worthy of putting themselves on their own to-do list instead of feeling the overwhelm of having to do all the things. I know this is a podcast, but I mean, air quotes around all the things,
Right.
Whatever that is. Yeah.
Right. So are you more moms or working moms? Or I mean, is there more specific ideas? Because stay-at-home mom is like multiple jobs, but then you add mom to 6 kids, and I'm mom of 2. But then you add a job or multiple jobs onto that. And that's adding more fuel to the fire. So
More hats. Yes.
sounds like a lot of hats to wear. Sounds like a lot of a balancing game with,
It is. Yes. So I have worked with all kinds of moms actually. And in my Facebook group, I have lots of different moms, that I have the moms that I have a lot of entrepreneur moms. I have moms that are working outside the home. I've got stay-at-home moms. I feel that a lot of my content can definitely reach and
Sure.
resonate with all different types of moms, no matter how many hats you're wearing. But I have been the moms I love right now. I am an entrepreneur mom, right? But when I struggled with my being a super mom, like when I struggled with like having my cape on and holding on to it tight and not being able to like rest or not being able to put myself on my own to-dos with all the guilt. Let's just say that when I used to feel like very guilty about taking any time for myself, I was a stay-at-home mom. But I also owned a business, right? Like there was times when I owned businesses. And so the moms that I focus on right now are those moms that are usually working moms. Yeah. Like the stay-at-home moms, while it resonates with them, working moms are the moms that are typically the ones that are feeling stressed out, feeling like they aren't making any times for themselves because they always feel pulled in those different directions. When they're working, they feel that that should word is a big thing that we address. But, I should be with my kids. I should be doing this. I should be doing, all the things. And then when they're with their kids, they're feeling I should be sending emails. I should be doing, all of the things. So they struggle with being present in the moment. And that's a big piece of my program.
Yeah, that's great. And that would resonate with whether you're an entrepreneur or not. And
yes.
I would guess, I would think, just having been in mastermind groups and whatever before, that there's a magic to that too, because then the talking about experiences and how you solve those problems and how you give time to yourself, when you're at home, it's time for yourself, but then how do you separate from that and how do you engage all of those things? I imagine it makes a pretty engaging community because you have a good conversation about that.
Yeah. And especially now, because I find because I identify as an entrepreneur mom, as a mompreneur, right? The new term. A lot of when I even yesterday, right, at the time of this recording, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I'm not in control of my time because I feel like I'm being pulled, that familiar feeling. And then I'm like, what steps do I already know? And it's tapping into that and saying well, what can I do to get myself more balanced, or to get myself feeling that balance again, or feeling like I've got this, and increasing my confidence. And so those are the tools that I'm sharing. And those are the things that I'm like, hey, I've got these tools. Right now I'm struggling with it. It's not like you're never going to struggle. It's not like you're ever going to reach for that super mom cape and think oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that in order to be amazing. But when you do that and you start feeling overwhelmed, here are the tools that I have found that work. And so that's what I'm bringing in now at this current moment, because that's who I am. Yeah. And I'm not going to deny that. So as an entrepreneur mom in my group or in my program, you're going to benefit from that, because that's my experience at this moment. And I can help you because I'm struggling the same thing. And these are the tools that I've used in the past. These are the tools. And Moms Without Capes, I always feel is this culmination, or the epitome of my education, my experience, and just what I can bring to the table as to help other moms, because I've been through it. So I can relate. I know what it feels like.
So you're a genius.
Yeah. So I feel because it didn't start out as Moms Without Capes. It didn't. I dabbled in some other things, different areas. They're always you've got to find a niche. You got to find a niche. And so I was all right, well, weight loss, because I had lost a lot of weight. When I started doing Zumba, I started losing a lot of weight. And then I started gaining weight when I started focusing on that. And I was this is worse than imposter syndrome. This is
the opposite of it.
Be teaching this, but I can't. I'm struggling. But I'm you know what it was? I'm it was really just changing the way I believed about myself and feeling worthy. Those were the things that needed to happen in order for me to make time for. I like the idea of the unicorn space, making time to explore passion, or to get back to who you are, because so many moms lose themselves under their mom hat, and then they don't even recognize who they are in the mirror. So they get to the point that maybe
that's the question I wanted to ask too. Is I'm also in the coaching business, the business coaching business, and so you work with other business coaches, and you kind of get in this tunnel, and you're doing all the things you're supposed to be doing. You're making content, you're making sure your website's updated, you're making sure you have all these things and communicating, and you're making sure you have your email messaging checked. And we get in this funnel, and same thing with moms too. I make sure the lunches are packed, and I make sure I'm at all the kids activities, and that we get into this space, and we often don't think of it as a problem or think that there's anything from that. So what's I guess the transition moment, or how do we get people to discover that, hey, maybe it's time for me to put myself first?
So awareness is key, right? Yeah. We both know that. So stepping back and seeing is this working for me? And that only comes with making space for yourself. That only comes with being able to take a step back and say, just start, right? to start thinking.
I was going to say, welcome to being a mom. I don't think there's a better podcast for this to show up on. My son just got home from school. I'm going to finish, buddy. I'll talk to you in a minute. Sorry about that.
So like, I can't even think of what I was saying. Oh, about the, what was I saying, Shelby? I totally
talk about the awareness, like awareness is kind of the first step.
Being aware of that. And we tend to fill our schedules, right? And not give ourselves time to even like think, or to even like reflect on our thoughts, or to reflect on like, is this working for me? Is this something is this the direction? Am I even going in the direction? And it's funny that you said about that with our business, because I did the same thing. Like I was like, oh, I've got to be on TikTok and Instagram and Clubhouse and like all of these platforms. And I'm like, I've got to create a course. I've got to do a membership. And I did that. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, this isn't how I want my business to be built. And so it took that stepping back and realizing like, I am doing the exact same thing in my business that I was doing not in real life, but like in my personal life. Sure. And I'm like, this isn't what I want to do. And it's taking that step back and realizing like, it's okay to do it my way. It's okay to not do it like I keep hearing like from the masses, like this is what you need to do, and building a business that's going to work for you rather than like you working for this business that it's not bringing you joy.
Exactly. You're following someone. Well, and that's with business coaching too, and self-coaching too, that yes, there's a blueprint to follow, but you don't have to follow it exactly. Right. You've got to add something that works for you and that has your personality in it and that has your needs, and you can balance your life with it. Yes. And maybe you don't get to everything on the checklist, right? In the blueprint,
it's okay.
You're moving forward.
Yeah.
And creating, and I think that's the best part about creating a business out of your genius, is that you can adapt it to fulfill the needs that you have. So,
right. I agree.
Or the needs that you want to fulfill. Yeah. So,
yeah.
Because it doesn't solve everything, but it solves some of the things. So,
yes. That's what we're aiming for here.
Yeah. Well, tell me, so what's your vision for where this is going to go? What do you see in the future for this group and for your own business interests?
So right now, and we had this conversation the other day about, I have this Facebook group, and I love my Facebook group. Like we have a book club. I do my challenges in it and everything. And I want definitely a community. I would like to have this community, but in order to translate, like in order to kind of move from, a free Facebook group to the community that I want, it takes some nurturing. It takes some helping moms realize that they are worthy of investing in, that they are important enough to prioritize, right? There's a lot of that initial work that I do in my Facebook group to help them move. So right now, what I'm doing is I am doing one-on-one. I'm doing one-on-one with clients. I have to start somewhere. I tried a membership 2 years ago, and I was never able to grow it more than 4 people. And at the end of the year, I was like, you know what? Let me just go back to the basics and just do one-on-one. I know my stuff, like to be able to coach and to teach my clients, the women that are ready to work with me. And then at that point, I'm learning from them as much as they're learning from me. Like I'm learning like the words they're using. I'm learning their pains, their pain points, learning where they want to go, what their goals are, to be able to speak to a larger mass of people and to create that. Because ultimately I feel that there's such power in groups, that I love the group model. And so I would love to have that membership. Plus the other thing is, I'm only one person. And if I'm continuing to trade my time for money, I can only serve so many people. Like I still have my own family. I still have a life.
You have your therapy business. You have a husband, right? Like all those things. Yeah.
Right. And I don't want them to fall out when like trying to like build this business. So in order to like, I know that a group business or a group model is definitely in my future, because I love community. I love groups, and I want to serve more than just the moms that I have time for. Right. You can serve more in bulk right? I
Absolutely.
shop bulk, right? Why not create my business in bulk?
Right. I mean,
But it takes time.
It's the model that you hit the nail on the head. You're trading time for money right now. And that's fine because you're building your foundation and discovering, you're doing research, but you're also serving your clients, but then building a model where you're meeting twice a week instead of,
Right.
and you're meeting 20 people rather than one.
Right.
That changes the dynamics. And
Right.
that's an important thing to think about business scale.
Yeah. And I feel I will have more energy to serve on that, like in that model than, seeing 17 clients a week or whatever, whatever it is, rather than like I'm coming to the table like with a group and they're learning from each other. And that's important too, because I mean, when you are momming, it can feel lonely. And as an entrepreneur mom too, like, or, you're going the ins and outs, and I'm talking with moms who don't make time for themselves. They're not making time for relationships, for building like friends, like having friends or like taking care of themselves. And so I find that in a group, they can bounce ideas off each other. They can inspire one another, motivate, and hold each other accountable. And that's the power of being in a group. So
exactly. There's such a power to it. And add some wine and you got a group. I tell you what. When you have an opportunity to do that. Well, that's awesome. Well, I think there's such a big need for it. And it's a need that we might not think that we need, but then once we're in it, we're like, oh yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Not giving time to myself. I'm not doing all these things.
Right.
And
right.
there's a community that can help remind me.
Right. And the last thing I want to do is add to mom's overwhelm with the idea of self-care. So that's like a fine line, like where I tend to go, one of my self-care challenge actually helps mom like define what self-care is for them, because we have enough things in our like mental checklist, right? Like of the things like that we feel like we have to be doing. And so when you talk about self-care and you're like, oh my gosh, it's one more thing that I'm not doing, that I'm feeling like I'm falling behind, or that I should be
guilty
doing
about
all this stuff. Yeah. Like that's the last thing I want to do. And so helping moms shift their belief, like believing like, what is the power of self-care? Speaking of like the power of groups, like the power of self-care, and helping them realize like that it's a ripple effect, that you're giving your family a gift by prioritizing yourself, by taking care of yourself. You're giving your children like a mom who cares about herself enough to take care of herself, and a mom who's going to live long and model what it means to feel good about herself.
Right. And your kids will recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
And your spouse. I mean, that's all the things. I know, just to give you kind of a side story about that. I hurt I'm training for a half marathon, which is a little bit crazy, and I don't know why I'm doing it, but
are you doing it now?
Yeah, well, yes. So the half marathon is in June in Missoula. And so there's a group of us that are going to go do it. And I'm training one of my friends here, and I pulled my quad muscle, which is not a very comfortable muscle to pull in like December. And the last run that I took was it was the Sunday before Christmas. So the following Sunday was Christmas. And it is killing me right now that I can't go. I'm still recovering, and it's been
you're like derailed from your training.
And it's killing me that I can't go. And I'm not a runner. I don't really like running, but that is something that I am starting to enjoy it, because I was in a routine. I was in a habit. I would go to the gym 3 times a week, and that was my me time. I'd listen to a book or whatever, and then I would exhaust myself. But now I can't do that, and it's driving me bananas. But
that sounds fun though.
Fun. But
I actually trained for 4 and ran 3 a while back, and and I was I have it on my bucket list to do a full marathon. And I started last year and then got plantar fasciitis on my feet. And I was like, this very similar. Like, I was like, dang, like I was just getting up to like being able to do the 3 miles. And like and then I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk for like 6 months. Like, like, especially in the morning, it's finally getting better. So I started getting back into the running, but it's
that the exercise and self-care and making sure you're taking time for yourself is so critical to being able to function just mentally and all those things. Well, Onnie, where can our listeners discover more about your program, about your ideas, about your group? Where can they find you?
So you can go to my website, momswithoutcapes.com. I also have a podcast if you're a podcast listener, Moms Without Capes.
I haven't been on your podcast yet.
Yep, I should have you on, Shelby. And then I also have, if you're on Facebook, come join my group, Moms Without Capes. Everything's Moms Without Capes on all the social.
Moms Without Capes.
Yeah,
great brand. Well, Onnie, this was a treat to learn more about you and to learn more about your business, and a business that speaks to the needs of so many moms out there that are entrepreneurs or in business, or everybody's just strapped for time. And so we need to take care of ourselves to be able to better take care of our kids and our lives. So I think that's a wonderful message to send. So
thanks for having me on.
Of course. Please connect listeners with this genius mom who has created a business to help you transform your life. And it speaks to the needs that we have. So I look forward to hearing from another genius entrepreneur in the next episode. But the most important thing is to think about your intuition, to think about your genius. And there is a place in the market for it. There is a need for those skills, and people will be drawn to it through your story and through the way that you present it to your audience. So just think about your expertise a little bit differently. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Culture, Communication, and Brand Moments with your host, Shelby Jo Long. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we will see you on the next episode.